Welcome to the Pink Lady Posse podcast, where women over 50 take a fresh look at living, toss out tired stereotypes, and say a big heck yes to what's next. I'm your host, Sandy Parker, and around here, we challenge limitations, rewrite the story on aging, and reclaim our power, pleasure, and purpose. Why? Our next years are not about a decline. They are our big reveal. I'm Sandy Parker Martinez, and I'm here with someone that I care deeply for and have an amazing respect for. We're friends, but she's also my guide in a way. So, welcome, Kristina.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you for those words.
Well, I was looking at your website, and right on the top is one of my favorite things. It says, your soul work is calling, and it doesn't need to suck the joy out of you. What did you mean when you said that? And what about your bio, if you will? What do you want us to know about you before we start really jumping in?
Well, one of the things that I've started liking and loving about myself is I'm a smartass and I'm a provocateur. And I say generally what I mean. And I do it in a playful way. I do it in a loving way. But that's what that was. And, a lot of times we get into working with ourselves or for ourselves and it becomes heavy. And no.
I know.
No. Like my retreats, it's always laughter and fun. And yes, there are the moments of inspiration or moments of, oh my God, I didn't know that about myself. Intimacy. But then we have a good laugh.
Well, and that's kind of what it's about, to learn ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I want to start out by saying we knew each other from leadership and coaching.
Yes.
So we're strong women. We're not victims until we use it. Right?
Our advantage.
It's a great card to play. No. But like we're trained in life. We know how to live and we know that we have a say in how life goes. And then sometimes life happens.
Yeah.
So between you and Juan, just sort of give me the double plot twist on this life happens part.
So Juan's my husband of 25, 26 years. And in 2015 or 2014, he was put in the hospital for a heart transplant. And he got the heart transplant in May 3rd of 2015. For 2 years, I didn't really take much of a breath because it was waiting to hear that the doctor said, you're okay. And, and I had, oh my God, the support. The good thing is out of the training we've had, I knew to ask for support. So when he came home, because I was working, I got hold of his son. I had 3 brothers. And I said, can y'all come here for a week each and take care of him? And they did. Now, the sucky news is my younger brother passed away, died of a heart attack right in the middle of it all. So that kind of did some things. And then I had people before he came home come over and help me really clean this house. I had a new door put in to his office so that he could be protected from whatever, because there was just, we had cats and just get all this stuff done. And friends came, and I mean, it was amazing. And then in 2023, I had a mammogram, and there was a lump. And when I went to the oncologist, the lady who, what are they called, radiologist, whatever, she said, it's the C word. I said, nah, it's not. She said, you want to bet? I said, yeah, I bet it's not. Well, she was right. I was right. So my oncologist, she said, oh, there's a scale of 1 to 25 and then 26 to 100. And this particular lump was in the 1 to 25. She said, we may or may not do chemo and you'll only have to do 1 week of radiation. Cool. And then I'll be honest, I don't quite remember. I remember I was in Galveston with some people. I got a call and said, "You need to come in. My surgery was coming up. You need to come back. We found that, like, where did you find it? That there was another lump, and they need to go in to have a biopsy." The most painful thing in the world. That one, totally different problem. And it was on the other side. So then all came in was the chemo and the radiation. And, so, the first thing you do is I had my port put in. The doctors were amazing. They're women.
Yay.
The one who did the pump sat there and prayed with me. Never had that happen. The Dr. Cairo, who is the oncologist, it's funny. She loves to cuss, which I love, so it was, and she spent 3 hours with us when we were there for the very first time. So I really didn't have a lot of time to figure this out because I had my mammogram in August, September, the results, October, the blah, 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 and November was the surgery. So it was like, bam. And then December, I started chemo. Now, the one thing I loved about the chemo was for 8 hours, nobody could get to me.
Yeah.
8 hours, I could sleep, I could do whatever I wanted to do, so that was good. And it was fine, mostly, until it wasn't, And Juan would take me up there and he'd help me because I had the caps on that would help you keep your hair. He would help me put it on. He would bring me back some food. It was hard on him.
Well, and my husband who passed away, Rodney, was waiting for a kidney transplant that never came. And I have a friend whose husband's transplant did come and then it didn't take. So when I heard you say, we had this and it was 2 years and I did this and it was a month and I go, oh my gosh, that waiting time, that pending, imminent, when is it? That liminal space we know so much, right?
Yeah.
It's so disorienting, and I have chills to just imagine the weight of all of that, to just really set your feet. And this is a weird question I'm gonna ask anyway. At that time, does life's significance, like, just expand? Do you go,
I expand.
yeah, like, I value life every day, but then when it's threatened, I'm like, "Oh, I want more life."
It's really interesting, Sandy, when I look back from all the training and stuff that we've done,
Mhm.
I don't remember getting depressed. I don't remember now with Juan, but I wasn't surprised that he was okay. He's 0% reject. In fact, every year he goes in and they said, "We don't understand." He said, "What?" He said, "Your liver and kidney should be in trouble right now, and they're perfect." And I'm going, "Look who he's married to."
Yeah.
A healer, so it's like that. And then with mine, and actually it was the oncologist who explained it because, you're in the midst of it. And I developed anxiety after everything was over with. And I was talking to my oncologist. She said, that makes sense. She said, when you're in the chemo and you're in the radiation, you're at work. Yeah, she was right. My whole, what I ate, I couldn't eat and da da da. And I couldn't, at one point, I was so week, Juan had to line up chairs to the bathroom. Also, it has something to hold on to. And so, but I was at work doing what I needed to do to get this out of me. And then the anxiety hit. She said, "So now you're dealing with the psychology of it."
Kind of the delayed trauma of it all.
Yeah. Because I didn't have time for that. Even though I was just in there one day, and I never stopped work. I worked 2 days a week at an interior design firm, and the owner, Julie McGar, went through this with her brothers. She was amazing with me, and I never stopped going to work. I didn't let it stop. I didn't stop doing courses I was doing, trainings I was doing. Um, I got to use it as excuses sometimes, like you said. But
I bet.
I just didn't let it.
Well, it's interesting because I was working with you to support you on a book you were writing.
Yeah.
And at the time when you told me, and part of my interest is, okay, so what do I do for my friend? Right. But I remember you said, let's just put it on hold because I'm going to be going through this. And I remember just blurting out, how about having it ready for you to live into, right? Like, we're not stopping anything. I'm going to do some work and have it ready. So when you're done, it's here waiting for you. And then I remember thinking that might not have been the most compassionate thing to say. But at the time, I kept thinking I would want to have something to be planning ahead
Well,
beyond.
the coaching I would give is that you ask her instead of you. I loved what you offered. I don't think
I know.
yeah, but it was like I was touched because I knew what you were doing. You were giving me that future because you were afraid I wouldn't have it. And that's what came across. So you want to listen. And I never use that C word because there is a stigma to it and people go, I don't want that. I just say I had 2 lumps removed and then I've had chemo and radiation and they know what that means. In fact, my last meeting, I wasn't with our oncologist, I was with her assistant. And she said, great, you're in remission. And I mean, without thinking, I said, don't say that. She looked at me and I said, what? I said, don't say that. I'm not in that implies it's still here. And we're making sure it's not. I said, it's gone. And that's all I want to hear is it's gone. Don't use that other word. That's the whole languaging thing.
Mhm.
So here's the thing, Sandy. It's like you want to listen to what your friends need. And they may not want anything. And that's what you got to let them do because we all have our own path, right?
Right. And I was so shocked and sorry and stunned. And, you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say. So now I would be equipped to say, oh my goodness, what can I do to support you? What do you need?
Yeah, that's all.
And I would have been ready for the moment, but I was ready to talk about your book. And then I wasn't ready to go, oh, that's a plot twist.
Well, the other thing is to trust yourself.
Hmm.
Even if I said I don't need anything or your friend says I don't need anything, you're very there and listen. And you may get, oh, I'm going to send her a funny card.
Hmm.
There was a girlfriend of a very old friend of mine. She she would do with AI and she'd send me these really corny jokes, you know, and she told fairy tales about the ducks who came and fed, in her backyard, and that's what she would do. And I didn't feel anything like I might respond, but mostly I didn't, but it was that, so it was just listen. That's what I'd recommend to anybody is just listen. Don't try and force anything. Oh, for God's sake. Now, you have people out there who want you to baby them and okay, but I'm just not that kind, you
Yeah.
know?
I
So I
remember.
can only talk from what worked for me. I don't know
Right.
what works for others, but
I love what you said about the power of the words we say. And we're trained in that to say words that we want to create what's coming. And when Rodney died, I was teaching a course right then. I was a coach in a course right then. And for weeks on end, every time somebody saw me, they were so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I know you are. And I remember this prompting to go up front and say, thank you for all the sorry. I received that. I know it is horrible. And I have to have something worth living for.
Mhm.
right? Sorry just leaves me with this big old blank of yuck and nothing.
It always brings it back.
And so I remember thinking the most painful part of that was the feeling that all the good in my life was behind me. Like, I got married, I had Taylor, I had Rodney, we went all over the world, and now I'm looking at a canvas that's entirely blank. And that probably has something to do with me wanting to give you something on your canvas. I had to speak, something is coming that is not it's not better, as in that would sort of,
Yeah.
dishonor Rodney and all the beautiful thing, but there's something coming that I don't know yet, and I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't even have a clue. But if I don't have that, I'm stuck in no man's land. And I just said, let's just change sorry to something's next.
Yeah. Have you discovered or.
It takes a lot of guts at the time to say, or just maybe not even guts, maybe just knowing that the words you say matter and be careful the words you speak.
Yeah, and our friends always want to take care of us and make sure everything's okay. And that's where they're coming from.
Mhm.
And they're doing it based on a certain model that we were raised with. So now the new model is, let's go do that. Let's go dancing or whatever it is for each particular person. And I know I mentioned earlier that I'm like, when I told her to don't say that word again, I'm becoming very cognizant of the fact. Like, if you look at the amount of people who have been diagnosed with this disease, men and women, I mean, it looks to me like it's just keeps growing and growing and growing. Is it because of all of a sudden there's something in our food? Is it whatever? But I believe I'm a law of attraction coach, and I believe we keep speaking in. It's on T-shirts, it's on commercials on TV, it's rallies, it's all that stuff, and I keep thinking, is there another way to rally people up but not use that word? And I haven't come to it yet, but one of the things we can do is to just stop saying that word.
Mhm.
Stop saying anything that would create something in the world that isn't indicative of who we are or the grace and the beauty that we are. Instead, we're doing things to not get sick. Guess what?
And that applies to all kind of labels. I mean, when I say I'm a widow, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
In fact, my daughters, they were like, Mom, widows in our family, they just stay widows. I'm like, oh, is that the roadmap I'm on? Yeah. No, I'm only 50, whatever it was, 65. I'm 69 now. And I just remember thinking, I got life ahead. But I think labels of any kind make it seem real.
Yeah.
Like it materializes in our very words spoken.
Yeah. Adds weight to it, adds energy to it. Yeah.
And
So,
educates. I love one of the things we're aware of, and I don't know if I can say it, but I teach the people around me how I want them to treat me. We don't like to say that. We want to think they're doing it all by themselves, but really I've made agreements with people around me to treat me a certain way.
yep.
And when I have the way that's not suiting me at the moment, like the father role, with my husband ever tries to be like paternal, I just go, "Oh no, that won't work."
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't do that. I'm like, mm-mm-mm-mm. Because it puts me in a role that I don't want to be in.
Well, I've had that very same thing. In fact, if I look at my circle of friends versus how it was in the past, oh my God, this is so rich. I always look at when something happens to me that didn't, like, why? I don't look over there. I look at, if I'm the source of my life, why do I have that in my life? Why do I have a friend who's this way? What's the lesson they're giving me? because I had one friend that, just whatever. And I called my brother, who was living at the time as Methodist minister, said, I'm calling you as a parishioner, not as your sister. Here's what happened. And he da 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 da. I can't hear God right now. I need you to tell me what God's saying. So he said what he said, but when he said the words, it's not your fault, just like that, it cleared up. I never had to say a word to her. That's the biggest lesson, because all of a sudden, her agreement with me to have me learn that lesson was gone. So then we could just be friends or not. So, like, Juan's in my life to teach me something. You're in my life because there's some lesson for you to me or me to you. And, we stay and we move on, whatever. But I live in that possibility, and I haven't seen anything that contrasts it, that says no. But if I have somebody's being ugly to me, why am I letting that happen? Why did I want them to be that way? What's the lesson they're trying to get me to get? And the lesson may be, you know what? This doesn't work for me anymore. Adios. Or it could be, it's pointing to a belief I had. Like with that friend, it pointed to a belief that I keep thinking I did something wrong all my life.
Well, we've been exposed to a lot of training, and for some reason, this is coming to my mind. But we have been in an exercise where we are speaking something to the other person, and we're to assume their answer is no. Right? So I'm going to persuade you of something knowing that your answer is no. The way I speak it, the way my body moves, the way my tone is that way. Then if we change it where I assume your answer is yes, and you're going to value what I'm saying, the words I say are different, the tone is different, I'm excited to tell you. It is so crazy how much of that impact or that way we have things set up, really affects our life. Well, what have you learned the most from what you've been through? I know. It's like saying, hey, jump in the rabbit hole. But what's one or two things that you think I learned from that experience?
The biggest thing is letting, I'm one of those, used to be one of those, I can do it myself, is letting my husband take care of me. Putting those chairs up or coming in and saying, it's time for you to go to bed. Or did you take this, whatever it is that is his thing, there's that. But I got to tell you, Sandy, when it was diagnosed, I think the first thing out of my mouth is, things like this don't happen to people like me. I wasn't angry. I was like befuddled, like, what? And I don't remember being angry about having it. I just didn't understand it. Like, things like this don't happen to somebody like me. And I had two friends. They're both very spiritual and connection with God and all of that. And I finally, after it was just this year, I finally got up the nerve to ask, why did I have this? What was it for me to learn to do this? It wasn't punishment. I knew that. But why? They both said, independent of each other. They don't even know each other. But when I heard the same thing from two different people, I went, I needed to go through this to be able to do what it is I came here to do. And even before I asked them, I had noticed differences in me.
Ooh, like what?
Well, like I didn't get as upset, or I could speak it if I was upset, or I could just be with things in a way I'd never been with things, just like sit there and look and, oh, that's interesting. I could make phone calls to ask people if they were coming to a retreat or if they were coming somewhere. In the past, there's no way I would have done that. And what they both said is that I had to do that, and to serve that, my DNA got changed, which is I don't understand that, but to have two different people independent of each other tell me that. And I think that explains why I've changed, why some of the ways of being, some of the
That is so funny. I love that cat. That cat is bringing us humor in a moment of, hey, life's not that heavy at the moment.
so anyway, that put me on another level of inquiry into, first of all, what is my purpose, and
Mhm.
I'm stepping more powerfully into it. I can see, like being on your podcast, and I was interviewed by somebody else last week.
Yay.
And so it's like, oh, you know,
So let me just challenge myself in the understanding when you said you had to go through that.
yeah,
Well, there's a Bible verse, and I'm not a Bible thumper person, but it says it rains on the just and the unjust. So when you said things like that don't happen to people like me, my husband's a pastor, so we help people through hospice, and we help people through funerals, and we help widows through
yeah,
dealing with that. And sometimes I go, how could God let that happen? But so I don't know if I believe it had to happen. It's not my place to believe it had to happen for you. But if it's happening, it doesn't do any good to fight the fact that it's here.
yeah.
How did you get yourself, or maybe that was just not ever in your occurrence that you said, but you did say things like this don't happen to people like me.
And when I said people like me, I meant healers
You honestly,
who heal. So
I,
now I get stuff that happens to me all the time,
I see.
but it was like, wait a minute, it's clear I'm a healer.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so how can I be a healer and get ill and have this happen? Not even ill, but have this happen to me. So that was about the most authentic thing I'd said in a long time. What the hell? And so it was really about the healing part, being a healer.
Now you say you're a healer. I know you as a speaker, a retreat leader, a program manager, a writer, but the healer, I'm kind of now, what's that?
So, okay, now we're getting into the woo.
If you don't mind, just for people who aren't woo, or woke, this isn't a chance to change the way anybody feels about anything.
No.
But if we're not open to learning from each other, what are we doing here? So that's where I stand is no, I'm not selling healing. I'm saying, okay, you said you're a healer.
I didn't know that I was until Juan was standing there with the headache, and without thinking, I just reached up and touched it, and he went, "Oh my God, it left." And then there was a course leader that had a neck ache or something, and I was massaging, and she said the same thing. She said, "You got the touch." And I'm a Reiki practitioner, but my calling this time is not to be a hands-on healer. I've done that in so many lifetimes. This is something different. And so I heal now through listening
Mhm.
and words.
Oh, man, is that beautiful.
The most powerful thing that ever happened to me in all that training was being listened to. I had a course leader who kept coaching me. It was making me pissed off. So finally, I had a conversation. I said, I have a request. I am not a request to be coached. I'm just not. I've been doing this for 40 some odd years. I've been in this business longer than you have. I just want to be heard. Because sometimes coaching, for me, it indicates I don't know what I'm doing or there's something wrong with me. Whereas if, like right now, you're just listening, I can, and I know people do this just in being heard. Sometimes I say things I'd never said before because that person over there is really listening, and it isn't like figuring out what am I going to say next.
Right.
Ooh, I want to tell her my experience. Yeah, I catch myself on that. So I'm here this time for healing through the word, through speaking. And it's interesting, in my family, my father and my 3 brothers were fabulous wordsmith. And I realized, oh, I have that ability. And Kent Glenn was a Methodist minister, so he had all these sermons. I am now a bachelor degreed, card carrying, ordained minister. So I can use my words. So that's where I do the healing. And then there are times I touch people, or who knows? It's just not on my mind. I remember begging God. God, in fact, there was a point in time where I said, okay, am I through with that? Can I now do what I'm used to, the touching and stuff? Okay. But then I went back to, you know,
I had a session one time. I'm in a lot of coaching circles, and I thought, I'm going to offer a listening session, where I'm just going to listen to you for 45 minutes, and then you're going to have the experience we have. And it was sort of a test, I thought, let's see what that's like. Well, this woman, I mean, from the minute I started listening to her, she just started crying. And then she kept talking, and I said, "Say more about that," and she would tell me more about that. And at the end, I said, "Okay, now that we've sort of been through it, will you do a little testimonial to just tell people what it was like? Like, is that a valuable experience?" And she goes, "She heard me. I've been seen. I'm known." I mean, this woman's heart was so open.
yeah,
I love listening the pain out of people
yes,
and giving them the chance to just get it out.
yeah,
Now, I know you are crafty, not arts and craftsy, but crafty in terms of the way you listen, the perspective from which you're listening, and the soul work, the depth of listening that you bring allows people to heal, right? Allows the deeper parts to be expressed. And that's why you said we're going to have fun on a retreat. We're going to have a great time, and we're going to heal some, and we're going to be intimate, and we're going to know ourselves better.
yeah,
What a beautiful opportunity is that?
yeah.
So you have a retreat planned. I forgot the name of it, but it has something to do with dirt.
I know. When I kept going, okay, God, what do you want me to call it? And I heard these 4 words and I went, what the heck? Holy dirt and sacred fire.
Holy
So,
dirt and sacred fire.
so it's about getting back in touch with Gaia, Mother Earth, being outside. Like one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go to a cave it's in Bernie, Texas. There are 2 caves over there. So we're going to go to the caves just to feel there, to let the caves talk to us. And the place we're going to be at is beautiful, and you can be outside and touch the, like that. So it's really about letting myself and others let the earth contribute. And then fire, sacred fire, is about being courageous and taking all the things that we observe and putting it in the fire. Thank you for the contribution and putting it in the fire.
Well, I love all that, and I had a situation with my taxes,
Uh,
and I called a man that I know that makes a lot of money. I thought he might know a tax guy, and he said, "Oh, I know the guy to call," and it was a big tax thing. So I set up the call, and I told the man, "I've been living in shame and guilt, and I can't do it anymore." And he's this old crusty dude, goes, "Well, let's do this. Why don't you give me that shame and guilt? And let's just get it done." And when he said that, I was like, it's gonna be okay. And I didn't know that but I remember just saying, "I've got to get this. It's just on me, this guilt and shame and disappointment and confusion." And, when Ronnie died, I didn't have the records, and I didn't keep his computer, which means I was like, I'm in a mell of a hess. And he said, "Well, give it to me. We'll get it done." I'm like, "Oh, man." to have the opportunity to say, this still isn't healed. This is a new awareness that this is wanting to emerge, right?
It's like an onion. We use that all the time, but it really is that, you get one thing. Like the big thing I got last year was it's more of the doing something wrong. But once I really let that go, the next thing that popped up is I don't have a say. You had 3 brothers and a father who had a temper, but I just didn't have a say. I was, back then, I don't have a say. So it was like, oh, so now I have, just seeing that.
Man, how powerful is that?
I can now, like, and I'll tell you, my husband, always I have a say.
Mm.
And I'll go, would you do that? He said, why don't you just ask me instead of trying to butter it up? Instead of just say, hey, take the trash out. Or, hey, clean this. I said, just say it. You don't need to go through all that. And
That's
so
beautiful.
that's the newest thing I'm learning is I have a say.
I was on a podcast yesterday, and this woman, she was a PhD therapist type person. So she wanted to know about my family of origin. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And and I said, well, my dad was a golf pro and he was gone. My mother was overworked, and my brother and I were in direct conflict. He was the man of the house because there was one missing. And I didn't want a man of the house telling me anything to do. So I was constantly having a say in how my life went, right?
Yeah.
And I realized yesterday that I have a say. I've always had a say. I've always said it. And that's what makes me appear so bold and courageous. I might be as scared as the next guy, but I'm going to stand up. I've been standing up for a long time.
I'm envious because my mode of operation, in fact, it happened. I went to a retreat, somebody else's retreat. First time I met this woman, and it was going great. But then on the Sunday, she was yelling at me. And I was like, of course, being a retreat leader, I'm like, you don't do that to people. But I tried to argue back, and there was just no doing anything. So I did what I do. I shut up. And I went inside and I became compliant. And I said, yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. I won't do that again, And I was like, who the hell? And the good thing is I called her later and we got it healed, because she said something about me being passive aggressive. I said, no, I said, I don't know why I did that. But you know what it was is you were out in the hallway and you were upset about something and I took on that energy. So me standing up to go to the back, I was just trying to get that energy off of me. And so I'm looking forward to the day when, in fact, that's what I said I want to heal for myself out of the retreat, is that I don't have a knee-jerk reaction to someone else's anger. That I can be in the face, like of her being, it would have been so amazing if I could have been in passive or just listening in the face of her anger. It could have been an amazing healing conversation, and it would have been an amazing lesson for her entourage who keeps letting her do this behavior over and over. And she's learned a lot. We talked one other time.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I got off into that.
Well, I love what you said, a provocateur, because while I have a say in how things go, it doesn't always work well in a corporate setting.
No, it doesn't. You know how many times I got fired or, I mean, I'm really not. One boss came into a meeting. She'd been late to meeting. And she went, okay, what'd she do this time? Because there was some energy or something like gotten pissed off or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But the good thing is I know that I have the freedom. One of the little programs I just wrote yesterday is Frozen to Free. Like, how do you thaw out from that frozen spot to let yourself out, to just be free. But yeah, what beautiful, we could talk for another year And what we would say would be useful.
Yeah, it would.
But I want to sort of bring it to a close with, if you could, and there is, first of all, an epidemic of loneliness. There's a disaster of disconnection. And when people 50, 60, 70, 80 are going through change after change after change, empty nesting, caregiving, husband dying, having a diagnosis, what would you say would be your word to them? If you could just say, okay, let me just share what I have in my heart to say, and this is it. What would that be?
Well, if anybody ever wonders if we rehearse all this, the answer is no. Because I'm sitting here going, I don't.
Not at all. That's how good friends are.
I don't know how much I'd say as much as I'd listen. Really. Because I'm just sitting here. It really is for me. I want to listen what they have to say. And then it would depend on what I hear.
Mhm.
So
So,
I might hear they might need professional help. I might hear, oh, they just need to get with friends. Or I might, whatever. But if I haven't listened to what they think is going on or what they have for themselves, I'm guessing. Now, that's not true because we're all intuitive and there's something there. But
what would you say to the lonely person that that is not accessible to you to hear? What would you say to a lonely person?
do they like being lonely? I have a friend, she's happy being lonely. It's not lonely for her. She just spends a lot of time by herself and she's happy. So it would be a question of, well, because otherwise I'm assuming they want something different, right? But, I would want to know. The question would be, is this what you want? And give them a chance to really think. Okay, great. Then what do you see? What is it that you do want? If you don't want this kind of life, what do you want? Okay, great. How can we get you there? I prefer to not try and guess what people want. I always want to do the inquiry. That's why I'm called the Socratic intuitive.
Yeah.
I want to do that inquiry to ask them, you know,
And if they don't, know what if they don't know what they want?
oh, it'll get to it. I promise. I just say they do know.
And
So they're either afraid because in the past they've said what they wanted and got beat up or whatever, or I had a client one time, Sandy, it was interesting because there was something she wanted. And we'd have this conversation. Finally, I realized she really didn't want all that. She was being a brat. With, like I could see that. I didn't say anything to her, but I could just see she's just being a brat right now and she's not interested in being supported. So I just backed off and we ended, we completed and everybody's okay. Sometimes people just don't wanna.
Well, to me, that's where a posse comes in. Now, people have said, that's such a Texan word. I'm like, okay, fine. But if I'm surrounded by people that will tell me the truth, or at least listen so the truth can come out, and then still love me anyway, that's the bomb diggity.
Yeah, and it takes courage. That's why we were talking about the retreat and, "Oh, I don't know, no, no," and I said, "It takes courage to do
Oh,
this. I don't care how much work you've done, how much transformations you've gone through, how much insights you see, I don't care. There's always more." And I even wrote, I said, "Until I walk through walls or walk on water, that's when I'll know I'm enough. But until then." You know?
I love that. Well, I'm starting a new program called Adjust Your Crown, and it's you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed, but you might want to adjust your crown a little, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I can't remember. Oh, yeah. So I was describing this to a coach and I said, I really want women to be a posse for each other, to be a circle of trust. And she said, well, see if you can listen for a balance or create a balance between the push of discomfort and the pull of hope.
Mm.
Because until there's a push of discomfort, we don't act.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't act if there's not a pull of hope.
Yeah.
People don't go, I'm destroyed and I've got nowhere to go. They'd rather just sit on it. So my hope is that people can start to let what they really want emerge and let that discomfort pull them to the pole of hope.
Yeah, like with that one young woman, I would say things or whatever, and finally, this is how I remember it. I even said, "It doesn't seem like you're interested in really changing. You say this, and you're not really interested, and that's fine. That's your life, and that's great, and there's nothing wrong with it."
Well,
But don't waste my time.
and sometimes they don't even know yet.
Yeah. No,
I mean, they think they do, but I had that when Rodney died and I was going on job interviews and not getting a job. And bottom line, told somebody, I don't really want a job. I never wanted to have a job. I didn't want to need a job. And now I've got to have a job.
Yeah.
As long as I don't want a job, you know what? I'm not going to get a job.
Exactly.
I mean, I had to have that. It was like a splinter out.
Yeah.
Before something could change.
At an event last Saturday, all women. It's called Women of the World. Never been to it. I was there with a friend, her plus one. First of all, I realized I don't know how to be around women. First time I've ever admitted that. And here I was around all these women. I only knew one person there, and it was lovely. There was difference of opinions, and it was lovely. Because there was the respect and the love, and there was a common commitment to the world that, I was, okay, I now see how it can be.
I get along great with women. Women are my deal. Now bring in a strong man, and we'll work it out. Kristina, in my heart, you live there. And your words are so beautiful, but who you are is delicious.
Thank you, Sandy. And I so admire what you're doing and how you love me and how you love people and love the world. It is so precious and so special and what we need.
And I would have never thought a purpose-driven life was so joyful.
Yeah.
I never would have thought having podcasts and listening to people, because in my heart, I really want women to have what they need to have the life they want.
Yeah.
Till their very last breath.
Yeah. And the trick is, like, at this event, there was this one woman who completely opposite of who I am, who 90% of the women there, but it doesn't matter. That's who she is. And it's, can you accept her? Because that's her thing, not try to change her.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not changing you because you're delightful. And thank you so much for being with me. And I can't wait to share you with the world.
Thank you, darling. Love you.
Love you.
Thanks for tuning in to Pink Lady Posse Podcast, where women go from what now to what's next. Come join us at pinkladyposse.com, where we share community, resources, and tools to support your next beautiful chapter. With love, light, and a little lipstick. See you next time.